Welcome to episode 7 of News for the Blues. Back once again with your weekly bite-sized news post David Moyes press conference, obviously before we play Aston Villa on Sunday, 4:30 kickoff. I'll put out the share first of all, shall I? Because this is the controversial 25-26 fourth shirt, obviously launched last weekend on the day we played Sunderland in the fourth round of the FA Cup. Worn once, never to be seen again, as we can't wear more than 3 different shirts in the Premier League. So really, it could only ever be worn in the FA Cup. So we're never going to see it again. Obviously, it was controversial, the fact that it was a navy blue shirt, which we wore at home. Wasn't particularly well received, was it? We discussed it on last week's podcast very, very briefly. But I think in isolation, I think it's a nice shirt, isn't it? But I think the date it was launched, obviously immediately post-Christmas, obviously the price of the shirt, the fact, as I say, it was worn for a home game. So, as I say, it's a nice shirt. But I said in the BBC article this week, our future is bright, but it's not navy. So, yeah, that was a bit of a talking point from last week and from the season. But moving swiftly on, obviously, post David Moyes press conference, we head to a fabulous Aston Villa side. Obviously, I think they're third currently, in with the shout of win the league. I know it's obviously we're just over halfway through the season, but they've been in such fabulous form. Just never know, do you? Listen, fair play to them. Had a fabulous season so far after a really, really poor start. They'd only scored in the first 5 games. They came to our place and we drew 0-0 and we should have beaten them. I think Martinez made a couple of really good saves that day for them. But they've really kicked on. Obviously doing okay in Europe as well. So it's going to be obviously a really, really difficult game, especially given the players that we've got unavailable yet again. David Moyes asked, of course, as he always is, who's back. The only one we've got back is Jack Grealish after his 1-match suspension against Sunderland. Sadly, Tina Rabunum is not back in training. We thought it might have been just a minor issue last week, hence why he didn't feature against Sunderland. But he's not back in training. David Moyes says neither is Kieran Dewsbury-Hall or Carlos Alcaraz. We know, obviously, we've seen footage in the last day or so of Jared Branthwaite and Seamus Coleman back on the grass, increasing the training. David Moyes saying, obviously, both are getting closer, which is great. So you'd think, looking ahead, it wouldn't surprise me if we saw Branthwaite on the bench, by the way, on Sunday, because we've seen this before, where David Moyes doesn't let too much slip and then players just reappear. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Branthwaite on the bench on Sunday. If not, most definitely the Leeds game a week on Monday. We should definitely have more players to pick from. I would include Branthwaite in that, but I think he's going to be eased back in. Potentially Seamus Coleman. The 2 lads, obviously fabulous for them. Ndiaye and Ndiaye in the final of AFCON, which is great, obviously playing Sunday. David Moyes did joke that he thought if they got beat in the semi-final, he might try and just get them back for this weekend, until he realised it was a 3rd and 4th place playoff. So that put pay to that. But they're going to be over there. Obviously, we wish them the best of luck. Great for them from both to be in the final. I think Senegal won it last time, didn't he? So I think Ghana, he's got a winner's medal there. But for the 2 of them to be in the final on Sunday against the hosts in Morocco, really, really difficult game. But wish them all the best, and hopefully they can bring back the trophy and the medal, and we can get them back in for that Leeds game. And we should have, as I said earlier on, a few more players to pick from at that particular point. Funny enough, Ndiaye was brought up as well from a transfer perspective, because there was a few little murmurs I think I saw yesterday in regards to a Tottenham fan getting a little bit excited because they thought that they were in talks to sign Ndiaye, and I'd seen Everton had knocked back some kind of bid, and David Moyes was very keen to knock that on the head and said, "You think it's made up nonsense?" A player like Ndiaye, he said, "We want to get him back as soon as we can." Obviously, his creativity is really important. We miss it when he's not playing. So he was very, very keen to put that to bed and say, "Listen, there's nothing in it. He won't be going anywhere." Obviously, as he said, every player's got a price, but in January, you're not going to want to sell your best players, are you? So I think that one is certainly, we can put that one to the very, very back of our mind. And and forget about it. Obviously, he was quizzed on transfers in, because there's been a little bit of, so should we say, rumours taking off in the last sort of 2 or 3 days or so. Obviously, Callum Wilson's been linked. With the Moroccan centre forward as well, who scored the winning penalty. He's been linked as well from Fenerbahce. Talk is that a loan deal potentially has been agreed, but he's not too sure that he wants to come. We don't know how true that is. So they were sort of the two main ones, really. So are we looking for a striker? Potentially, you would assume that Beto would be on his way. If that was the case, maybe on loan, because there's a bit of talk that there's a few Serie A clubs interested in Beto. So who knows on that front? So we will see. David Moyes yet again reiterated the message that they are trying. You know, the owners, he said, I'm sure if I can get a couple in, they'll back me. He said that he knows sort of what he's got to work with. That's how it works at Everton. He was asked during the bowl last time how it does work, and he has the final sign off on bringing players in. But he's told by the powers that be what he's got to work with. Obviously, the CEO is there as well, and Angus Kinnear, who's also part of the process, and he's spoken already about, you know, how he doesn't see us being too active in the window. But David Moyes has said, listen, we do need players. There's no denying that. The reporters at the press conference were keen to point out that we're not too far away from those European places. And I've said this time again on our podcast, probably said that on this show actually as well, the fact that I feel that European football is probably one step too far for this side. I mean, it's shown over the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks, really, hasn't it, in terms of the inconsistency because of the number of players we've got missing. And Everton can't afford to have, 6, 7, 8 players missing. They just can't. They can't do it. The quality behind that is not there. So that's why I don't think we're gonna get there. But we're still within a shout of getting there. We're still within, obviously, touching distance, and you just never know in football. I have said as well, if the owners feel that they can maybe get it, they might go out there and bring in, say, 2 or 3 players to support the manager in a bid to try and get European football. So we'll watch this space. Not too long to go. Was it now about 2.5 weeks or so until the window closes? We know deals, if they do happen in January, they can go on quite late. Teams obviously see where they are by the back end of the month, and things can then move quickly. But it's a very, very frustrating month, you've got to say, in terms of bringing in transfers that are successful and transfers that can come in, hit the ground running and make a real difference. Because by the time they come in, you have, 15 games left, maybe, something like that. So it's one of those where you need players to come in, not just to pad a squad out and give you numbers. You need a player to come in and make a real difference. And if that's by the way of a striker, if it's by the way of, a right back, left back, whatever it might be, it can't just simply be that we get players in to pad the squad out. That's just not going to work, and that does impact on the longer term structure and the longer term aims of the football club. Because we said it time and again with this rebuild, it only takes sort of one bad window to throw things off, and we've been there too often. So we want to make sure that we go into the summer in a good position where we can go out there and attract our main targets, and not sort of just throw money at an issue. Because let's face it, in sort of 3 or 4 weeks, the likes of Keenan Zousbiol, who's not like everybody, who's not back in Spain, and Alcaraz, they should all be available. So you throw them 3 back in. You've got Ndiaye, you've got Garner Gay back, you've got Branthwaite back, you've got Seamus Coleman back. You start to get to the point where you are at a full complement, and you've got that quality once again. So it's important not to rush the decisions, but we'll see what happens in the remainder of the transfer window. David Moyes was also asked about Braden Graham, obviously one of the under-18, under-21 players who's had a good season, exciting talent. For those who went to the test event at Hilderton Stadium, you probably saw him playing there. If you watch a bit of the 21s as well, he's been performing well for them. David Moyes obviously asked about them, I think, because people quite often will say, Evertonians and fans of other clubs will always say, well, why don't you give this youngster a chance, give that youngster a chance? And not as straightforward as that. As he said, as a manager, when you're in the hot seat, he said you pick a side to win a game of football, the best side that you can pick. And basically the physicality of the Premier League is the biggest upgrade that younger players have got to make. You know, we've seen it with Adam Aston, haven't we? He came on to good effect against Sunderland. You look at him, he's slight, doesn't look particularly strong. He's only young, was he 19 years of age? He's a young kid. So he's got a lot of growing to do, hasn't he, as well, physically. And getting used to that and playing against men and, you know, that physical side, the strength side, the power side, you know, they're still maturing. So that's a difficult transition. Sometimes you get freaks, don't you? Wayne Rooney was one of those. At 16, he was like a man. They don't often come along, you know, and in a side like Everton where you haven't got bags of quality in every single area, so you can maybe ease these players in. It's not quite as simple. But one player brought up, I'm sure he'll go on and he'll have a decent career, hopefully with us. But obviously a lot of growing to do. In the meantime, that's us for today. We will be back, obviously, with the usual podcast on Sunday. Late kickoff. We're probably going to have to dive in and do an instant match reaction there. You know, the 4:30 kickoff, jump on at 6:30, get a podcast done. Going to be a busy week for ourselves on the podcast. Watch this space on that. There should be a special out middle of next week, which we're looking forward to recording. Should be recorded on Tuesday. Recording at a place that we all know and love. So we look forward to doing that. So keep your eyes peeled for the special out in the middle of next week. And obviously back with the news for the Blues next Friday after David Moyes' press conference before we welcome Leeds to Hill Dickinson Stadium. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening as always. It's much appreciated. Make sure if you haven't done already, you do subscribe on YouTube. Obviously, this is our visual offering. It's important, obviously, we try and build those numbers up and reach as many Evertonians as we can. We appreciate the support. Any comments that you want to make, we always try and get back. Make sure you follow us across, obviously, the likes of Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, TikTok, all of those platforms are on. We'll try and keep growing and growing. Exciting content coming, as I say, next week. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you then.